Hi and welcome to the Ruby Tuesday. My name's Ruben and this is my review for Netflix's original new movie, Minnal Murali. I hope I did that justice. Let me know in the comments below, had you heard of this movie? It came out just on Christmas Eve, so it's possible you probably missed this one, you probably didn't watch it on Christmas, and you were looking at it going, sometimes these type of films can be a bit hit or miss. Should I give this a go? It's 2.5 hours long, so it's quite a chunk of time that you've got to give to one of your days off. Should I give this a watch? Let's discuss. A tailor obtains superpowers such as enhanced speed, high muscle power, reflexes, and strength, and becomes the superhero Minnal Murali. The story follows him to clash between the movie's main antagonist, Selvan, a supervillain going by the name of Validi Vetkiti. I enjoyed this film more than some of the MCU films, because not all of them are great. I enjoyed all of the MCU films, but I enjoyed this more than quite a few of those lower ranking MCU films. I also enjoyed this film more than The Matrix. Well, the new Matrix Revolutions, not the original Matrix. I'm just getting that right. And you're like, are you mad? Have you seen Matrix Resurrections? Yes, I have. And I left the cinema pretty disappointed. I know some love it, and I think it's very split. The reason why I'm bringing that up, this film does a few things right that makes this film one of those superhero origin films that you should watch and look out for. Even though it's probably in a language that most people don't know of, I would suggest listening to it in its original language and then reading the subtitles. I think that is the best of both worlds. Some of what the director's trying to portray to you in the original language, some of those actors giving the subtle nuances in their own homegrown language. There are a lot of MCU films where one of the main reasons why they don't quite work is the bad guys aren't fleshed out. And the story really follows on our two main protagonists. One's the antagonist, one's the protagonist, one's the hero, one's the villain. But they give a lot of time to building up our characters. And you might sigh going, oh, it's going to be boring in the first hour or so. It really does take an hour and a half for our hero and villain to be created. But that's not to say that you're going to get bored with it, because it actually is quite endearing. It's quite giving you an insight to who these characters are. So by the time they start manifesting powers on either side, you care about what's happening. You care about the characters. You even care about the villain. That's why I think Thanos is such a great villain, because you care about his ideas. Not that you agree with them, although sometimes you agree with him. Like, just wipe out half the universe, right? That's the way to go. And so here we have two fleshed out stories. So by the time we get to the main arc of both of these characters' stories, and they kind of really intertwine very well, you care about what's happening. So it leaves you feeling, okay, I see why the villain is the villain. I know what he's doing is wrong, but I can understand why he's ended up that way. Until the end, really. The hero, he's not just the hero guy. He doesn't just turn out to be the hero. He's kind of selfish. And so we have our characters growing. And that is the true and tested kind of formula for superhero films that work. Then of course we get the culture for where this film is set in, and I haven't seen many superheroes set with this particular culture, and I thought it did very well to add some vibrancy, some color, some things that I'm not used to seeing. And the way they show, I guess, the intensity with the comedy is often allowing the film to be dark in places without then jumping to comedy. There's comedy when it needs to be. Marvel does this a lot, but this doesn't seem to detract from what is actually going on. There's also these kind of pacing moments where they want to do exposition, but instead of just doing a whole dump of exposition, they'll do it through a montage with a score piece that they've wanted to obviously put into heighten whatever's going on with that particular character. But then they'll do it through a movement of what's happening in the action. So basically you have a character learning some stuff along the way. At the same time, they'll dump the exposition that you need to know to understand what's happening in the film. Very clever mechanic to be able to do it that way. So there's little pieces that I thought, okay, that's a clever way to do that, because we need to be caught up in the action. And then when we get the superhero stuff, we care so much more about it. And I have to say, the special effects for this film are pretty good. The CGI is pretty good. At no point when there was like things flying about did I go, that looks, that looks fake. For the most part, you believe that things are being thrown around and people are getting punched. Obviously, there's slow-mo stuff and there's believability. When someone gets punched in the face with the force of Superman and his head still on his head, you do wonder, well, I don't quite believe that's what's happening, or the fact that they're able to, form a sentence afterwards. There is stuff that you kind of have to put to the side. This is a superhero movie you're watching, but it has a lot of heart because of the storyline that's in there. I was really impressed. I was taken back by it. I think I've seen Austin Burke's reviewing this and Movies and Munchies reviewing this, and they both were like kind of saying this is a really great film. And I was like, really? By the looks of it, I thought it was going to be quite cheesy. And then half an hour into this film, I thought, yeah, I'm on board. They're really building these characters, and it wasn't boring. I was surprised at the length of the superhero film as well, because I thought, how much can you do with an origin film set in one small town, really kind of building that up? But thankfully, they build up the villain as well as showing the family, the orientation of what's going on with each character. It really is developed well. And one other unique thing about this film is the score. The score is really different. It's often using different types of instruments I haven't heard used much in a movie. I think that really helps for authenticity, for where it's shot, the locations. And then it obviously changes it up between those action sequences. That also just is, it feels like a really expensive film, but I can't imagine that this was a huge budget. But it feels like if Disney were doing this, it feels like that kind of quality. I was very surprised by this. It's one of my favorite films I've seen of 2021. And it took me quite by surprise. It's obviously predictable. With most superhero films where they're going to end up, who's going to be doing what. But there are a few unique surprises where they were allowing the story to go darker than I expected, which is why I think this sticks out. Even though it's a bit on the long side, I didn't mind it. I'm going to give this 4.5 Nicolas Cages out of 5. Can't believe I'm saying that about this film. Maybe because I went in with low expectations, I'm giving it a bit higher because it was better than I thought. But I actually just think it's a really good film. Put it on your watch list if you don't mind reading subtitles and you like a superhero film that's a little bit different. I think you might find that this was pretty good. The acting, the quality, the editing, the CG, all of it came round to a really solid package to execute a movie that's really fun. Let me know your thoughts below. Thanks so much for watching, but most of all, until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.